everyone. I am your host. Yes, Jessica Koch. We are back again, and this is another Profound Professionals. We are an interview series that we have had the honor of having you follow and share and like and push out all over the world that has been running for almost 7 years now. We feature industry experts from all over the globe, and they can help improve your personal life or help you grow your business. Today, I am not going to disappoint you with our guest. He is in sunny Florida, and Dr. Don Thomas. He is one part strategic communicator, one part technologist, and just that sprinkle of pirate. We want to keep things interesting. I want to hear all about the pirate in Florida. I hope you do too. Welcome, Don.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that intro. I feel someone special now.
So tell us about how you became this communicator technologist sprinkled in with pirate. What
Absolutely.
journey led you there?
Well, let me give you a 30-second flyover that might give you a bigger feel for who I am and how I got where I was, or where I am, actually. So, actually, I was born into a military family, and people may say that's not strange, but when you're born into khaki diapers, you get used to change. I was born in Fort Lee, Virginia, and traveled all over the world to some degree, because you have to follow your family. You don't get, as a 2-year-old, the opportunity to set out on your own. So I've been to, of course, Virginia, from Germany to Georgia, all over my young life, and ended up in Texas. Grew up in Texas, found my sweetheart in high school, believe it or not, have been married for X amount of years. I won't say because that will give you my age. Did that. My parents did something absolutely fantastic, which I thought was horrific at that time. After high school, they said, hey, we're leaving, we're retiring. You can come live in the country with us, or feel free to go out on your own. Well, I didn't want to live in the country. And it's like, how horrible. Nowadays, people are like, you're kicking your child out. Sounded bad, but actually became my absolute best change in my life. Learned who I was and what I did. I actually started my first degree, and I got a degree in engineering. Wow, that sounds really cool. Electronic engineering, how do you make all these microchips? Became a software designer, did that quite well for many a year. Actually grew from just a designer to a senior level person to everything. I actually built a couple of companies when I was young, sold them off in the healthcare space. About 2009, I saw a change in the wind, which will lead to where we are today. There's a change called automation. RPA is where I started, robotic process automation, of designing how do we make things that people don't have to do that are redundant to make them smarter. Did the same thing, grew, started working in AI, ML, really all those things brought me to a degree in education. And then finally, in the last few years, a doctorate in strategic leadership. You say, well, how does that get to a doctorate there? Fantastic question. What I've come to find out over this long adventure of a life, and I love to impart to people, is that life is going to be a journey. So take the course you want. So I took the course of saying, how do we look at making people better at what they do? How do we make things more positive? And I
Mhm.
focus primarily on communication, because the reality is communicate, communication is one of those interesting types of skills. And I've been told it's actually my superhero ability. So if I had a superhero ability, I've been told, it would be the ability to translate technical to
Mhm.
business, and business back to technical, because almost all projects have that as a key point of success or
Mhm.
failure. Now that mixes, you're saying, well, what does it have to do with a pirate? I have loved pirates my entire life. Pirates, I believe, were the first entrepreneurs out there. They didn't just break the rules, they rewrote the rules. And yeah, they did some bad things. We won't talk about that. But they just rejected society. They said, hey, we're starving, we're getting poor food, we can't get a job. Guess what? We're going to be entrepreneurs. Now we're going to get a ship and we're going to do some bad things. But, I'm giving them a little grace on that there. They didn't just reject it, they took society, they reinvented it, which I think is kind of a cool idea that a lot of entrepreneurs and business owners love to do themselves. They
Mhm.
challenged the status quo, they changed everything. They faced kind of a self they were facing a self-interested type of establishment, a broken system, industrial scale disruption. an uncertain future. Does that sound familiar? Okay.
Mhm.
So it's one of those. I took that and I actually, went out there and said, hey, everyone should take their ambitions, their ideas, their challenges, their puzzles, and find the best you they could be. So that's kind of an overview, 30-second, maybe took about a minute, 30-second to tell you who I am and how I got to where I'm at.
So when does someone come to you? So they're like, okay, we're a company or we're a business or a solopreneur or an entrepreneur. I'm not sure what the best ideal scenario is. When do they come to you and say, you know what, we're feeling this pain, we need this solution? Oh, we've heard Dr. Don Thomas, he's the guy to go to. What is it they're experiencing when they usually come to you for your customers?
Excellent question. I actually have two ways there. One is very large organizations, the federal government, everybody else. They're like, hey, we need your insight. Fantastic, fun, puts money on the table. But
Mm-hmm.
where I have a passion and love is actually the smaller business person, be it you're a one person, shop, or, you're a multi-million dollar type of startup. People
Mm-hmm.
usually come to me and saying, we're hitting a plateau. We can do something called our daily type of management, our occupational type of leadership. We can go day by day to get where we're at. But that's what we're seeing, day-to-day results. We need someone that understands how to build a blueprint for strategy, for strategic leadership. Strategic leadership is one of those very interesting things that it won't help you today, but will help build that blueprint of where you're going to be in the future. That's one way people get to me. It's like, how do I move? How do I progress forward? The second way, which I have a great passion for, is, people were calling me Dr. Don before I was a doctor. That's just the name that stuck 10, 15 years ago. The reason I think why is I approach things very logistically, very logically, and have fun with it too.
Mm-hmm.
So, what people come to me also for is the idea of we have all these groups of people in our organization and we're getting no work done. Well, guess what? When I got to, working on that thesis, we all hear about, doctoral thesis, they're horrible, it takes you years and people kind of slap you around virtually. Well, I did that. And guess what I did it over? I did it over multi generational cohort communications in a
Mm-hmm.
remote environment. That sounds like something that came right up when I was finishing something called COVID. We needed that. How do we get people to go and work? And that's really one of the strengths that people really love is, hey, I've got these Gen Z people, these young people, they're on their phones all day long, and I'm still wanting to have a phone that has a cord on it, but we can't seem to get anything done. So I look at it from the perspective of, what is that puzzle that we look at there? The puzzle is in business. You have a number of variable aged individuals.
Mm-hmm.
They've grown and they've resulting sometimes in a negative consequence within the workforce. In addition, there's an increase of jargon and technology. What is the recruiting landscape look like? And there's a shift between each group of cultural beliefs and communications and job expectations and different requirements, and it spans 5 generations. This is the first time in history, actually, that we've had 5 distinct generations in the workforce.
Mm-hmm.
And most CEOs would tell you they're scared to death because they don't know how to get them working together. And that's what I bring to the table. Instead of you being you may not be a Fortune 500 organization, but I hope you're a Fortune U organization because I want to take that and give it to you. Yeah, they have to pay for it. But I want to work with and say, how can we build what you have there? I'm going to give you some jargon real quick and then I'll jump back. This is all based upon, yeah, start rolling your eyes. Here comes the educator out of me. This is all based upon what we call generational theory. It's a real theory. And the events in a person's life during their formative years, rather than later in life, significantly impact their characteristics. And by knowing that, we place them into these generational cohorts. You've heard of like Gen X, Gen Z. Those are
Mm-hmm.
those groupings of people. The reason why is we found out that people born simultaneously or hence kind of in the same time range They have very similar preferences and cognitive processes. So it allows us to look at, hey, we don't want to paint you with a broad brush, but we know if you're Gen X, you love your email, and if you're Gen Y, you're going to be a little different. You're Gen Z, you love text and things, which the traditionalists hate. So what I love to do is bring these people together to be so stinking successful that they don't really realize what they're doing. How do we get this to work? How do we be more successful? That's a lot of what I do.
That is fantastic. Now, whether you're working with a larger corporation or an individual, are you doing this in person, via Zoom, in a group setting, one-on-one? How do you most function when you're serving your customers?
So, excellent question. Usually, I will meet people where they're at. If they're good for a Zoom call, if I can put more people on it, I'll do it as well. If you're in the area, I always tell people, buy me a cup of coffee and we'll at least chat, because that's my downfall in life is coffee. So, I can meet people in any of those circumstances. Larger organizations usually fly me out and I'll do all the fun things, but
Mhm,
I would rather meet you where you're most comfortable, which
mhm.
nowadays depends on your generational cohort. To be honest with you, I am a proud Gen Xer, and I know that it took a while to get used to virtual meetings. But you know what? Millennials, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, who is coming up real quick, by the way, they're not in the workforce yet, but they're working their way there. They're going to be, that's going to be the only way. They're not going to want to do meetings.
I'm terrible at remembering which category I even am, what my label is. I know that's probably, embarrassing for someone with your degree and all. My husband's 60. He was born in 1962. He's 61. So I
He's a
think he's a
boomer.
boomer. And I was I this is my birthday month. I'm 51 and fabulous. And I
Mhm.
was born in 1973. So I am
You're a Gen X.
a Gen X. And what's typical for a Gen X?
So Gen X's, of course, are about 1965 to 1980. And when we look at these things, we change their dates ever so often because it's
Uh,
all based upon what's happening, societally, technology, like millennials used to be up to the year 2000. Then we took Gen Zs and moved them back to 1997. This
mhm,
happens all the time. But if you're looking at what a Gen X is kind of looking at, so Gen X are people still that love to read newspapers and magazines and listen to the radio and a little TV. They consume, about 165 hours or so. But they're digitally savvy, and they spend about 7 hours a week on Facebook. I know we're weird, but what we love, we're very interesting because we are what's called the latchkey generation. We were
mm.
born between 1965 and 1980. We saw the fall of the Berlin Wall.
Yes, we
We
did.
were
I
part of
was in
the
Germany. I
that.
got to go there.
So we had the dot-com boom that
Yeah.
characterized the workforce, in our childhood. We were dubbed latchkey kids because we are the first generation with the most significant divorce rate, sadly,
Mm,
ever.
yeah.
And so we became people that were self-sufficient. We were raised usually by one parent many times.
Mhm,
What that made us, it made us flexible. It made us self-sufficient, but we're a little suspicious and dubious and impatient sometimes. You know, our generation, because I'm a Gen Xer too, woohoo, we take up about 33% of the current workforce.
mm.
We used to be the big guys there, but now we're being pushed out by the next generation.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm most of the things you said, but I was also a Navy brat. I grew up
Yep.
military, and my parents did actually stay married. They're still married to this day,
Mhm.
and I'm not on Facebook because I'm on technology so much. I'm on technology so much for work that I mean I have an account and I do
Mhm.
check messaging, but if I don't do it for fun, for enjoyment, like to for
Right.
downtime. I listen to a lot of audiobooks. I do like radio. I've branched into Pandora,
Mhm.
and I do like a hard. a reading book versus I won't read an electronic book
Right.
like a Kindle or any of
A
that.
Kindle, yeah.
A paper book or an audio book. And I prefer texting versus any other, emails. Okay. I hate email. That's not true. I hate email. And, but I mean, I use it for work communication, but
Yep.
I have 3 staff members that cover and take care of my email for me because I don't want to do it. And same with like, all the Facebook posting
Mhm.
and all that. And even some of my LinkedIn messages, they handle. We kind of do that collaboratively, so that I don't get too far behind. I have a team member help me, but I'll answer some of those directly. But yeah,
Mhm.
that's a fascinating. That it's almost like you read the stars for me, like
It's
like
like a horoscope going,
a
yeah.
lot of the stuff was true for me, so that's very interesting. So, if you could give a tip to the audience, something people could use today that would help them with this challenge and with their business, what would you say?
Ooh, I would say one tip I give to people all the time is be willing to change how you view something. And what I mean by that is because I'm big into the communication thing and the generations, is that many times we're just immediately put off, hey, I'm not going to do that.
Mhm,
I don't, these Gen Z people, they're outrageous. They won't work.
mhm,
We've all heard the things like that. I
mhm,
think the harder thing now is that take a step back and think about the communication they're using. They're saying things that you're not used to getting in that particular way.
mhm.
It may look like smoke signals to you, but it's very loud and clear by them, and vice versa. And so I give that tip that to really understand your organization. Now you think, hey, I'm an organization of one. Well, guess what? You have clients, you have
Mhm,
people you want to meet, you have customers. They're all in these generations. And by mastering these tips of how do you
mhm,
speak to everyone, I was once called the generational whisperer because there's a way to really talk to people, not manipulate, but to understand and build that bond between, you know, the traditionalists who just, get off my lawn, kids, to working with even the Gen Alphas coming up. Once you understand them, you understand Gen Z, for example. They were the first truly digital generation. They're natively digital. They had no time they didn't have technology. They were given technology usually as children.
mhm,
Gen Alpha actually started out the newest group, the newest kids in town. They started out very powerful, and they came in to like Chat GPT and AI and have been using it. They're not even 12 years old yet, most of them.
mhm.
So, it's understanding how everyone communicates and then communicating back in a way that they understand and then helping them find a way to communicate back to you. So don't give up on the communication is going to be my key.
Okay. That's a really, really good tip. Now, one of the reasons and one of the things we started from show number 1 7 years ago today, is making sure we take a moment of pause as we visit these amazing and interesting guests, and they get to share with us a cause that's close to their heart, so that we all might think about either giving time, treasure, or talent to that cause, or investing in a cause that we love, or just remembering to take that minute and do something outside of ourselves or do something kind. So, Dr. Don, share with us the cause that's close to your heart.
So, as someone who has been in from military to technology my entire life, I like to look at causes that are away from both of those, to be honest with you.
Hmm.
Living in the great state of Florida, sunshine everywhere, I am a big person that looks at the causes of our ocean, being like the coral reefs, manatees, and all the endangered creatures we have now.
Hmm.
And we have a lot of things here that we, clean the beach. We do all kinds of, help. If you're ever here, you'll see people rescuing sea turtles and manatees, official places. I put a lot of effort there because I think no matter how far we get away from technology, we need to give back to the earth itself.
I love that. I think that's beautiful. And so, thank you for reminding us to take care of our beautiful planet. And whatever waters near you, maybe you could do and organize a cleanup in the spring as it approaches. So now's a good time to start planning and coordinating something like that in your community. So beautiful cause to think of. And we're so lucky that we still have the clear blue waters in many places in the world. And I know you get to enjoy some of that view right where you are. So that's lovely. All right. So everyone knows as we're growing these shows, we are looking to achieve 1,000 industry experts globally, and we are building the ultimate book list from all of our guests who come and recommend some book that helped inspire their personal life or help grow their business. We're going to talk about Dr. Don's book in just a few minutes because he's an author himself as well. However, he's going to share with us something that inspired either your personal life or helped you grow your business. What do you got for us?
Absolutely. So I started out in the classics, and by classics means they were new when I was young. So I truly would encourage people to read some of the works of Jim Collins. One of my favorite is
Mm,
Good to Great: Why Some Companies Make the Leap and Others Don't. Follows
mm,
kind of the same philosophy, identifying key principles and leadership qualities, and really enables organizations to make that leap to be a sustained success. So I highly
mm.
recommend that. It kind of follows in my same philosophy and probably built some of my own philosophies as well.
I love that. Now, tell us all about your book.
Woohoo! Who am I and what do I do? That is a fantastic question. Thank you. So, I have written a book recently, which is called Believe It or Not. As you probably all know, I've got a little love of pirates here. It's called The Pirate's Guide to Strategic Leadership.
Ah,
And it's a very interesting book. I thought about it for many a years. And when I finally got past that doctorate at one time, so I'm going to write a book. What would be the first book? What this book is, we take a look at the good parts of how pirate life was. We've talked about how, they were the first entrepreneurs, and that really a ship was not as regimented as you think. The captain didn't run everything. It was more of a democracy. You could kick the captain out anytime you want, but it took the entire ship to get you where you're going. The book is about the different attributes of the life of a pirate, what they were working for, and how it's a metaphor for many of the things we look when applying strategic leadership to our personal lives and to our business lives. It's a easy read. I think it's like 162 pages. Nothing far fetched, but it will get your feet wet and translate what strategic leadership is, why it's important to you and your business. And I think you'll come out on the other side saying, how do I plan for those 1, 3, 5 type of years, have a really nice professional blueprint of where my company's going. And it has a lot of neat attributes I won't tell you about there. On the side note, there is a children's version coming out in the near future. So keep your eye open for that.
Oh, I love that idea. That's exciting. And wherever you're watching this, right, we have this interview posted many, many places. So wherever you're watching it, keep your eyes peeled for the custom article that will go with it and some information in the comments so that you can easily find Dr. Don Thomas and links to his book and more information. There'll be a custom article and other ways to find him. And the fastest way is if you hit our website, everything will be posted there, a link directly to the article as well as a video. But all of these social platforms, you'll see it there over time as well. So thank you for watching. Thank you for sharing. Now, before I start sharing how people can be a guest on the show, like you, is there anything else about you personally or your business that we didn't get to touch on that you wanted to share?
I'll leave you with a final thought, just because
I'm going to steal
I
another one for you. We're not at final thought yet, but I just
what
want to make sure that you feel complete and that we
I
had
I
covered everything.
I think we have covered everything, and I jumped the gun, but that's what I do best anyway.
You have been funny, by the way. I don't know what you guys think, but I've laughed out loud a couple of times, and I'm not easy to make giggle. So that was good. That was good. All right. Well, if you're watching and you're an amazing industry expert and you're an author or you have some great idea or you can help improve someone's personal life or help them grow their business, then you should be on our show. What are you doing? Reach out to our team. We'll get you hooked up. And if you know someone, because if you are an industry expert, I'm guessing you know someone, you could be their hero and ours. Introduce them to us and our team, and we'll see about getting them scheduled on as well. Dr. Don Thomas, I have had a hoot and I have just really appreciated the topic and the content that you have shared with us and the value you're bringing into the world with your books. So thank you for being a guest, and I hope you've had fun too.
I have had a blast and I truly appreciate it. If you get bored, feel free to put me on another one and I will gladly tell you the next thing I'm working on. I'm always
Yeah,
growing and trying to reach everyone.
we'll love to have you back. Now, I'm not going to let him get away. He tried to slide it in early, but don't worry, he doesn't get to leave until he shares with our amazing audience that final thought, that piece of information or inspiration as we close out and say goodbye. You're on. What do you got for us?
All right. I told you about my background, how I went from nothing to a little more than nothing, but nothing too significant. I'm going to leave you a bit of advice. And this is an advice that people have said to many people in the past, but I've proven it. I'm the logical doctorate guy. Um, Always look for the best people to be with. When you're growing your business, you're growing your personal life, you are the combination of the five closest people to your life.
Hmm.
Use that. Use it to grow. Use it to learn how to communicate. I would even say, I would gather that maybe you should find five different people in five different generational cohorts to be those close people. You will learn so much. You'll finally figure out what all those emoticons look like. And you'll also be able to take that information. You'll be like me. I started out with a phone that had a cord on it, believe it or not, and went to a phone that looked like about a foot long sub without a cord. And now people have no clue. And I think if you take people like me and like, Gen Z, not Gen Alpha, they're too young. They can be your grandkids, maybe. It could be your kids. Take your
Hmm.
traditionalist, your older people, and bring them in and build the best you that you can be. That's my tip.
I love that. You're surrounding yourself with amazing humans, but a variety of humans from different perspectives. Really valuable, valuable information. Thank you so much again, Dr. Don Thomas. You know who I am. I am your host, Jessica Koch. I'm thanking you, and Dr. Don is thanking you for hitting that share button. And you know what? Someone that you may never meet would want to thank you because they needed this message. They needed to hear about what Dr. Don shared about today. So hit that share button, throw us some comments in the chat below, and tell us all about your experience and what you think on this topic. And I will close us out as I always will and always do, and remind you to really, truly be kind to yourself and be kind to each other. Bye, everybody.